welcome to today's episode with Shruti Bonam. Today we have an incredibly special guest with us, which is Sudhanshu Shrivas. He's a chartered accountant, finance professional whose career beautifully connects audit, investments, and education. Working at global giants to co-founding his own investment venture, Capital Sense, Sudhanshu's journey is a masterclass in how technical skills can evolve into entrepreneurial success. So he's also a mentor, an educator, inspiring countless young professionals to navigate their finance career with confidence. So, Danshu, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shruti, for the opportunity to bringing me here. And I really feel proud having here my introduction. Really happy to contribute in any way that I can. Thank
I've
you.
been really looking forward to this conversation for a while. And your journey from auditing to trading to now mentoring is super unique. I feel like it. So let's dive right in. If you can, just help us understand a little bit about how you started, what was your mindset, what kind of degrees you did, so that we can set a tone for the questions we have for you.
So I did my schooling here in Bhopal. So 14 years of my schooling, right from KG1 to 12, I was in St. Montfort School. Post which I moved to Bangalore to Christ University, where I pursued this unique program called BCom Finance and Accounts. It was something that could be pursued only by those students who are aspiring to be a chartered accountant. So the curriculum was in very much integrated with the CA curriculum, such that it supported us ensuring we complete both our BCom as well as our CA course. Uh, Post which, I think it was in second year of my college when I had completed my IPCC, which is now called intermediate, and I had joined articleship. So I started my articleship with KPMG and went on to work with them for almost, I think, 7 years in Bangalore. And then after having done that, I simultaneously completed my CA degree. And then I moved to London to BDO, where I continued working as an auditor. It was only back in 2024 in the month of November when I came back down to India to, start something of my own. Like I think I come from a family who has a family-run business, so I think business is in the blood. But I think it was very much a calling for me to be back here, be with family, and also do something of my own, which is what brought that thing in me to start something of my own.
Amazing. I've been very intrigued by the audit to investment shift and transition you have had because it's brilliant. Not everybody could do it. So you work with top firms, like you said, and before co-founding your own investment venture, how did your experience of auditing help you transition into the world of, trading and investments?
As an auditor, audit really give me what I would like to call an X-ray vision into the business. Like working with KPMG and BDO, I learned how to really pressure test numbers, the revenue policies, the controls, the financial narratives. I learned all of this as an auditor. But as a chartered accountant, I had an additional edge, understanding the deeper language of financials. That meant I could see beyond surface level figures, into company narratives or news aligned with reality. So when I moved from auditing
Mhm.
to trading, the chartered accountant background I had really helped me understand the market financials, the market stories more critically. I could spot patterns, manage risk, and build a more disciplined process with a deeper instinct of understanding of the financial landscape. Which is why I think this shift from audit to investor is more of a journey of a chartered accountant.
Correct. That's really fascinating, actually, because it's almost like your audit experience gave you a backstage pass into how, businesses really operate financially. Amazing. You've handled, audits under multiple frameworks. And for students who are learning the basics, they don't have any idea and they have to start. How can they practically understand these standards just beyond, textbooks and the curriculum?
That's a really good question. These standards, I think, usually even when I teach students today, like students fear that they get scared understanding, but rather I try and think of these standards, like these standards being IFRS or the US GAAP or the Ind AS, as different accounting language. They are frameworks which these companies use to tell their financial stories across border. just like how we communicate here today in English, the companies communicate using these accounting languages. So for a student, once they grasp the fundamentals, those core accounting principles, they have got the foundation right. Once they have got the foundation right, it's only about, I think, how one language sometimes differ from the other because of the dialect. The only difference could be something on those lines. So the differences are really just those regional nuances. The
Mhm.
base accounting framework remains the same, and
Mhm.
what changes are the are certain compliance details sometimes. So I think the advice here is learn the basics really well, adapt to the specific accounting reporting standard as business context demands. It's like knowing one main language and picking up a few dialects. Once you
Mhm.
have a solid core concept, switching between IFRS, US GAAP, Ind AS becomes much easier.
That's such a great way to look at it, because I feel like that it's very difficult, and students actually often get stuck with memorizing definitions, because of the exams. But you have highlighted the importance of context and application, which is, I feel like, super valuable insight.
Yes.
Amazing. So, you have once identified fraud in a London listed company. That sounds like something straight out of a finance thriller. What mindset or approach helps auditors catch red flags early, at early stage of the auditing process?
And I think that this thing has definitely been one of the best highlight of my career. I would say catching fraud wasn't some kind of genius, but it was more about the habits of the mind. In the case that we are talking about, it was a company which was listed in alternative investment market in the London, and the
Okay.
order book showed a huge revenue number that just didn't line up with the realized revenue that the company had been reporting. This discrepancy sparked curiosity. I started
Mhm.
questioning the order book, and the more I dug in, the more things did not add up. I wanted
Mhm.
things to corroborate and give me a picture, but the more I was digging, I was saying, like, oh, the two things are not talking to each other. It was
Mhm.
something as basic as cross-checking a signatory. So, in the real life, in the real incident, it was something as simple as checking a signatory in one of the document to understand the person who had signed the document for the company did not actually work with the company. So it
Oh,
was a
wow.
so it was a CFO who was designated signatory. And when I
Mhm.
just LinkedIn searched that CFO, I saw that CFO had quit 3 months back. And it left that question: how can he still be the signatory, or he does not hold that authority anymore? I found that simple check raised a huge red flag, and it was something so basic. How could someone who no longer worked with the firm have the authority to sign off agreements that inflated revenue? That one basic question started snowball effect and ultimately unraveled the fraud. So it's more about the basics, being professionally skeptical, verifying everything, and corroborating evidence. Sometimes simple check can lead to bigger things. And yes, that was the story about this fraud detection.
That's such an intense and impressive story, because it really shows how an auditor's curiosity and skepticism can make a real world impact, because you cannot miss the red flags, or it has a lot of depths into it. So, you have worked in the finance AI era, and you have been with automation and AI transforming finance and accounting. You have your own company, you have your own venture. What do you feel that what kind of skills do you think young finance professionals should focus on to stay relevant in the next 5 years?
Uh, that's I think a very relevant question in today's time. I think the AI landscape has been fast changing. It's not a threat. I wouldn't call AI a threat, but if someone is being able to partner with it, I think his journey is gonna be like he's gonna take leap in his journey. The next 5 years, I think, will reward the most to those who combine their domain knowledge with this digital fluency, if we could call AI that. So if you are in finance, like one can maybe focus on three things. Like first could be, say, understand data. Say, learn to use Excel deeply. If that's something that you have achieved, go beyond that. Go learn Python, learn SQL, learn Power Business Intelligence. The second thing that could be is to automate the reputations. Like there are so many things that one person does on a
Mhm.
repeated basis. So we can achieve efficiency by automating those repetitive tasks, it being say reconciliations, or it being some testing or any analysis that you do on a day-to-day basis. AI can really help us automate and help us get through these tasks in quick time. I think third thing that is really, or I would say most important here, is to develop the human skill. What AI might like, I wouldn't say would miss, but might miss is the critical thinking, the communication, the ethical reasoning, which only a human who has that emotional intelligence might display. So I think understanding data, automation of say repetitive tasks, and developing human skill, like having those human skill to being able to use the AI well, are things that today's finance professional requires to be relevant. Like the future finance leader will not be the one who knows every accounting standard, but rather would be the one who knows how to use data technology to take these decisions better. Like AI will be able to handle number, but it's the finance professional who has to handle say the insight and the narrative. So yeah, it has to be the combination of the two who has to like go hand in hand together.
But do you feel like that we should consider AI as a threat anymore?
No, I don't think AI would ever be able to replace a finance professional, but a finance professional who does not take AI in hand with himself or herself will lag behind.
Hmm. I love that, how you're framing it as an opportunity rather than a threat. I feel like that students will really benefit from knowing where to focus their energy. And this is such a realistic take on AI because AI is here to stay.
Yes.
And, I've just completely loved the way you have framed it as an opportunity. As someone who's teaches and mentors CA aspirants, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to students who feel overwhelmed by the CA journey? Because, the loop is never ending sometimes.
Thank you for that question, Shruti. I think once upon a time, CA course was known for its sheer difficulty, but not because of the content, but because I think of the lack of resources. In the olden days, I think students had to really struggle, find the right material, guidance, and even say mock tests. Today, the landscape has changed completely. With the wealth of study material, online test papers, and the access to teachers, mentors at fingertips, CA journey is more navigable. So, yes, it is definitely a challenging course, but the playing field today is a bit different. If you have, I think, the right determination, and if you're willing to put in the hard work that this course demands, you definitely see yourself becoming a chartered accountant. The difference now is that you have all the tools and support that the previous generation did not. So it's more about being consistent, showing up every day, and finding the method that works for you and leveraging resources that we have, or that are available at disposal. With dedication and wealth of support available today, the CA dream is absolutely within reach, I think.
That's a beautiful advice. And honestly, hearing it from someone who's been through, the grind and come out so strong makes it even more inspiring. I'm sure a lot of listeners needed to hear that today. So, Danshu, we have come almost to the end of our conversation today. Before, we close up, I would like to ask you my favorite question. What advice would you give to a 21-year-old Sudhanshu yourself?
uh, if I had to give an advice to a 21-year-old myself, I would say have belief in myself. Like show that belief. Know that you have got it all. Keep trusting yourself, and never say no. Like never say no to an opportunity. Like however small it looks like, or however daunting, or difficult it looks like. Try showing up. Try saying it a yes, and pursue it.
Amazing, brilliant. Sudhanshu, this has been a very enriching conversation, especially for me. Thank you so much for breaking down complex finance experiences into such relatable insights. And thank you so much for joining us today because to everybody listening, I'm sure they must be so curious and they would have learned a lot to keep them growing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shruti, for this opportunity. Hope this helps people.